If you feel like money is constantly being taken out of your bank account without you being prepared for it or without you knowing about it, we're going to walk through a budgeting strategy called zero-based budgeting that's going to help you understand where your money's going. That way you can give it power to do the things you want to in the future. My name is Kyle Seagraves with winthehouseyoulove.com. Let's dive into this. Side note, there's going to be timestamps in the description so you can fast forward to wherever you'd like. Okay, first of all, let's talk about when you log into your bank account. So when you log into your bank account, you most likely have, let's just assume you have one bank account right now. You log in and you see one number. You see that number of the money that's in there, okay? For some people, that's a big number. For some people, it's a little bit smaller, and that's okay. But you log in and you see one number. The hard part is that number doesn't inform your decisions moving forward. What a budget is supposed to do is help give you an idea of what you should be doing with your money. Okay, so the problem is you might log into your bank account and you see $3,000. All right, I have $3,000. So going and spending $60 on a really nice dinner, or at least that's really nice to me. I don't know what it is to you. Spending $60 on a dinner to $3,000, that's nothing to me. But wrapped up in that $3,000 is the cost for a car, the cost for savings for a vacation, or the cost for your kids' retirement. All those things are included in that $3,000. But when we look at that number, we can't categorize it in our mind. So that's where zero-based budgeting comes in. What we're going to do is separate our bank account into basically small little sections, small little buckets that help us spend money out of those little categories. So what we want to do is we want to budget our bank account and not our income. A lot of budgeting apps want you to budget your income. And the problem is for most people, income's fluctuating. All right, unless you're on a salary, your income is going to change depending on if you're working hourly and you do some overtime, or you're working on commission. It's really difficult to budget when your income's always changing because you can't guess what it's going to be. And there's no point in trying to set up a budget to a fake income that you don't know if you're going to hit it next month. So instead, what you do is you don't worry about your income. I know it sounds kind of weird in a budget, but you don't even worry about your income at all. All you do is budget the money in your bank account. All right, so we'll talk through that here in just a second. The reason why it's called a zero-based budget is it's because the money that comes in versus the money that goes out to categories equals zero, okay? Say that again, the money that comes in, so the income that you get, minus the money that gets split apart into different categories should equal zero. That means that we give every single dollar a job. Every penny gets a job. So here's how it works. Let's say that today you just got your paycheck, all right? So that paycheck comes in. Instead of it just sitting in your bank account, what we want to do is separate it into categories. So let's say that your paycheck was for $2,000. All right, so I don't have a lump sum of $2,000. What I actually have is $300 for a car payment. I have $800 for a mortgage. I have $50 for a phone bill. And that's how you separate that out. That way, when you categorize all this money, you should have $0 remaining in this kind of bulk fund. All right. So what zero-based budgeting does is it gives you the permission to spend, because what you get to build in there are little categories for the fun things that you want in life. So for instance, I have categories for continued learning. I have categories that is just free to spend money. And so that gives me a permission each month to spend money from that category. All right, a budget should not be restrictive. A budget should give you permission to do the things that you want to do because you understand where money is going. And that way, every time your bank withdraws a payment from something, you don't feel like, oh gosh, I wasn't expecting that, or I forgot about the utility bill payment. That doesn't come as a surprise to you. All right, let's continue on here. So let's talk about zero-based budgeting versus traditional budgeting. So traditional budgeting normally relies on an idea of income. And again, the problem with that is we don't know what our income is going to be all the time. So it's kind of makes, it doesn't make sense to budget based on income that we don't know 100% for sure that we're going to get it in the future. Also, the problem is traditional budgeting normally feels like an expense report. I know when I first tried traditional budgeting, I would put down what I thought my income was going to be in kind of general categories, and then I would look at it, and then all it felt like was, oh, I spent a lot of money on Chipotle last month. I should probably not do that. and then none of my actions change. So the problem with traditional budgeting is it doesn't help you make smart actions moving forward. It really doesn't change your habits with spending money. Zero-based budgeting, what it does is it allows you to consult your budget. So this is how it works for me when I'm about to go anywhere to spend money. So let's say I'm about to go out to eat. All right, so I open up my app, and we'll talk about apps here in a second, but I open up my app for zero-based budgeting and I look, how much is in my eating out category? So I don't get to see any of the other money that's sitting there. All I see is how much is in that category. Do I have enough to be able to eat out? What you get to do is you get to consult the budget to say, can I do this right now? Instead of looking at the whole number, you just look at that one category. All right, so now let's talk about some apps. So you could do this on Google Sheets if you want to look at a free option. Just a side note, I'm not paid by any of these companies to tell you anything. I wish that'd be nice. If they want to send some money my way, great. But the one that I use is YNAB. It's You Need a Budget, okay? I think you can go to ynab.com or youneedabudget.com. It's about $80 a year, just a heads up. But it seriously has helped me save so much money, and it makes it really easy to do zero-based budgeting. They also have a lot of resources that teach you how to do it and teach you how to overcome some finance obstacles and budgeting obstacles that you might run into. There's also Every Dollar. Every Dollar is with Dave Ramsey's company, so that's also a good alternative. The thing I don't like about Every Dollar is they still want you to project income, which doesn't make sense to me because it's not really beneficial in their app, but it is what it is. You can also use Google Sheets if you just want something that you do yourself. Personally, I think it's worth spending the $80 a year on something like YNAB or Every Dollar. I don't know how much Every Dollar costs, but it really is worth it to be able to have your money in one place. You can share it with a partner if you'd like, if you budget together. So let's talk about some pros. Pro about zero-based budgeting, it's going to help all kinds of income. So personally, I am on commission income. I actually have a little bit complicated income. I have W-2 commission income, and I also have 1099 independent contractor income. So it can be difficult to project what my income is going to be each month because it changes so drastically depending on what's happening. So that was always a frustrating thing for me with regular budgeting, was that everybody wanted me to put down what's your income. I don't know. I have no idea what my income is going to be. I have a general idea, but with zero-based budgeting, you don't worry about your income at all. Just budget the money that comes in to your bank account, then give it a job. All right. It's also going to help you manage true expenses. The problem with a normal budget is it's not as easy to predict what's going to happen in the future. So with zero-based budgeting, what you do is you set aside money for what are called true expenses. So each month I save money and set it aside for auto maintenance. And I just say, hey, I'm going to set aside $30 each month for auto maintenance. Same thing with healthcare. Hey, I know I'm probably going to have something that happens. I sliced my finger on a knife a couple months ago, and the hospital bill is not super nice. So I budget, set aside money each month for medical expenses. That way, if I ever hit a deductible, there you go. It's right there waiting for me. So you're budgeting these things that aren't really bills right now, but you're saving up money in these categories. That way you never cut into them. You never buy something that was a want that's now going to cut in money that you need for a need, if that makes sense. It also helps you know where your money is at. It's really nice to be able to log into an app and see where you're at with your goals. Right. So where am I at with, for instance, personally, I want to get LASIK. So where am I at with my goal to get all the money for LASIK? Do I have that set up? What percentage am I there? Am I 50% there? How many more months is it going to take? When you just have it in your bank account, you don't know what that's going to look like. And then if I go buy something else, if I go buy a new camera, it's going to cut into the LASIK budget fund, but I would never know that unless I was separating my money into categories. Okay, here's some cons. It takes some time to manage, all right? If you don't budget at all, it's really easy to budget because you're not budgeting. When you do start to budget, it's going to take some time. It's going to take discipline to be able to start managing your expenses that way. It really is worth it in the long run if you do it though. And it's going to require that you stick to a consistent plan, all right? Some people do not like being restrained with their money. Some people are free spirits and they like to be able to do what they want, and I understand that. Just know that a budget is going to give you a plan and a direction. And if that's what you want, great. If you don't want a plan moving in a direction, then budgeting probably is not for you. Now let's talk about budgeting, zero-based budgeting specifically, and its relation to buying a home. Why is it so beneficial for purchasing a home? The main reason why is it's going to help you track your progress towards your down payment plus any closing costs. Okay, so you can make a category for funds for a house and constantly set money aside into that bucket. Store it away in that bucket so you don't touch it with any of your other spending. And then you can see what progress you have towards being able to purchase a home. Also, if you're not escrowing, so if you are not escrowing, then it's going to help you manage your taxes and insurance. So if you're not escrowing, meaning that the lender is not paying your taxes and insurance for you, taxes most likely are due semi-annually, so 2 times a year, and insurance is due once a year. So instead of being taken back by a $1,000 insurance bill each month, you set aside just under $100 each month into a separate category, and you're good to go. Then when the insurance wants to bill you, you already have the money set aside, and it's not an emotional problem or a financial problem. You can also set aside a maintenance fund. So you could say, hey, we're going to set aside $30, $50, $100 a month in our maintenance fund, or in your rehab fund, or in your refurnish fund, or in your painting fund, or whatever you want to do with your home. You can start to set that aside in a category and work towards those financial goals and see your progress as you go along. You can also set aside an emergency fund, so maybe a couple months of your mortgage payment. So if your mortgage payment is $1,200, well, let's do easy math. If your mortgage payment is $1,000, maybe you want to set aside 2 months, 3 months of payments so that if you're ever behind, you ever lose your job, you have those payments lined up and you're not going to miss anything there. It's also going to help you track your mortgage payoff and the value of your home. So help you understand your net worth and how quickly you're paying down that mortgage. If you're using a software like YNAB or EveryDollar, or even in Google Sheets, you can track it that way as well. Okay, so this should give you a really solid idea of zero-based budgeting. If you have questions about budgeting, let me know in the comments. I reply to all of the comments, and I'd love to help you out.